Hello, welcome back. Now we're going to look into how to insert some images. Images will be useful for your storyboards, your inspiration, um, etc., etc. Important thing to quickly bring up is file structure. So if I just open up Documents, we'll create a new folder. We'll call this website. Right, now what we want to do is when you create your HTML, when you first save it, we want to save it into a folder. This folder is also where we're going to put our videos and our images. Now it all needs to be in the same location, in the same folder, so your HTML needs to be saved in the same places where you store all the rest of your content, which will then later be put onto your memory stick for submission. So I will save this now, because I realized in the last video I did not do that. So if I go back to here, good practice is to call your website index, because that's the typical name that we give to the first page on a website. So save as type that should all be correct. Don't need to change any of that. Again, this may look different on a Mac, but same principles apply, etc. So file save. There we go, that should now be saved. Right, so there we go. Right, next thing we want to do is grab some images. So I will now go on to Creative Commons and get a quick image to use. Again, you will probably have these images because these could be images that you've taken yourself or found online, etc. That's not the right one, is it? CC search, that's it. So what I'm going to do is look for a video of a picture of dreams, I think, because that's most probably relevant for this. Used for commercial purposes, adapt, etc., etc. Doesn't really matter too much. I'm just going to grab an image just for the purposes of this demonstration. We'll pick that one there. It doesn't really matter at this point. So on the file, save image as, or on a Mac, you do that in your own way. So we go to our save there. You always want to actually, best practice actually is to view the image, save image as, documents, website, save it as the highest res possible. So we go back to Dreamweaver for a sec. There you go. So what I've done now is I have brought in a image tag. So what we can now, if we want to put an image in here, it's a very simple process. We do open bracket img for image src. Now you'll notice as I'm typing it is giving suggestions, so I can double click on source. Source, sometimes it can do that. And then if I do a beginning of a open quotation mark, it'll bring up a browse option. I can double click on that. I can then select the image I want, which is in the same folder as our HTML that we've just created. And there we go, that's our image brought in. If you hover over it in the newer versions of Dreamweaver, you should actually see the image pop up there. It may not appear in this view yet because we haven't finished it yet. So if we close that tag, you'll now see it appears on our website. If it doesn't, you may have to give it a kick by switching it from design to live view by this little drop down here, or try the refresh button up here. Now, straight away we can see a problem. This image is way too large for our website. So what we want to do is put a bit of CSS control with it. So what I can do is I can give it a value of width. Now, with a website, you want to try and keep to a sort of standardized size. It's very hard to be able to guess what this is because you don't know what size the user is going to have as their screen. But for the purposes of this template, I'm going to work along the lines of a 680 pixel wide. Mainly because it's not very often you're going to encounter somebody who has a screen smaller than 680 unless they're using a mobile phone or tablet. And in that case, that would be a different piece of code which we do not need to cover for the purposes of this assignment. Yeah, that's just so you know. So I'll give it a value of 680 and we close that there. There we go. As you see, it's resized to 680 pixels. We can also do this via percent if we wanted to, so we can do 50%. So that does 50% of the original image size. But I'm going to stick to 680 for the purposes of keeping things easier for myself. So here we have our image source, which is in the same folder as our HTML that we've just created. You may notice at the sides here, the numbers may change color. These are meant to give you clues. So here it says alt of image tag must be set value. Now, you don't necessarily require an alt tag, but an alt tag is beneficial in the real world for the purposes of what shows up if your website image doesn't load. So, heart image here. Let's just check that I've done that correctly. Right, okay. So all this means is if that image doesn't load, it will show up a piece of text that says heart image here, or whatever it is you want to say there. Again, this isn't critical, but it is good practice to have one of these in there where possible, and it does remove an error that you may find when typing in your image code. Right, so we've done that. Next thing I'm going to look into now actually is I'm going to start introducing a bit of basic CSS into it. CSS is our cascading style sheet, or basically the way that the page will look, and the HTML covers our content. So because we've put all this content within our body tags, our open body, our closed body, and we've got our style preset in the last video here within our head area, we can now control all these elements within this part here. And to do this, we simply type out the parts that we want to control. So I will do body, open curly bracket, text, align, center. See, it's already starting to do stuff over here. We can also do background, color. We can actually bring up a color wheel if we type it this as is and then do like that, so we can bring up a color value. You can also actually type in the hashtag hexadecimal value and that paste that in there, or we could even write, see it's pick that one because I just clicked on it, but I could also type in red, which gives you pre-built values, or black, but that does, you know, that does reduce your options somewhat. But if we just bring up the color wheel, we can select from millions of colors basically. So I'm going to go with a lilacly pink color for no real reason. Again, you'd want to pick a color that's appropriate to your video and so your text and images are complemented correctly for it. If we didn't want to use a background color, we could actually use a background image, and we can browse for that. I'm just going to use the heart image we have again. So as you see here, it's used our background image and tiled it. But so like that, and we can put in no repeat, I think. It's not correct, is it? But anyway, we can control that, and I'll probably show you how to do that in the next video anyway. So there we go, that's our body control. Now we always need to close it off, and we can add multiple lines of control within the same line just by putting in a colon, curly bracket, whatever you call it, there basically. Now we can also control everything else the same way, so we can do H1, which is our header, and we can go to font family. Now the way font family works within Dreamweaver immediately is it chooses fonts that's on the system. Now later on we'll cover why this is possibly a bad idea, but for the purposes of showing you what this does for now, we'll pick one now. So we'll pick this one here. So what it does is it picks the first available font on that machine that it can read. So if it can't find an impact font, it will then go for Hattenschwaller, whatever, a Franklin Gothic Bold, an Arial Black, or just a generic sans serif if it can't find any of those. We can also control the font size the same way, so we could overwrite the pre-built values that the H1 gives us. So we could go to, ridiculous sizes if we wanted to. Again, you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but that is a way of doing it. And if we want to control the color of that text, we just type in the word color without the U, because it's Americanization. Choose our color that we want, and there we go. It applies the color over there. Again, if none of this doesn't show up, you might have to hit refresh or switch to view up here. But anyway, that's how you do that. We also need to close it off. Now, the same principles apply to paragraphs, so we can do the same thing with that. If you actually just type in open curly bracket, you'll notice a load of CSS scripting comes up to try and help you. This is basically nearly everything you can do within Dreamweaver with code. So if you ever get confused or want to know what a function does, you can look on W3 Schools, and these are the values that it will give you. So we can do text align right. So you see we've done the text align right, so everything that's got a p value is now aligned to our right, even though it's still centered within the page. What I am going to do actually quickly is put a bit of code in which will control our the layout of our margins. So everything, no matter what size we make the window, everything within the content will scale accordingly. This will make more sense in a second, so actually I will show you what it looks like without, if the screen recorder lets me, that is. What I'll do is I'll actually probably attach a screenshot of what it looks like without and then a screenshot of what it looks like with, just so you've got a comparison. Or try it yourself and open it up in a browser by doing the preview in Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, whatever browsers you've got installed on that machine. And you'll see the effects by basically resizing the window. I'm not going to show you now because we just want to get on with this. So we do margin, open 0, so that coordinates to the top coordinate there. Auto, which means automatically you size the margin. 0, which is bottom corner. Auto, which is this side's margin. And again, we close it off. So what that will do is that should always leave the body within a certain area, and we can also do width 680. See if that does that anything. Just going to check this in my browser. When you're in a preview, it will ask to save, so we press save. It doesn't seem to be. No, it doesn't seem to have been applying. It doesn't seem to be applying it, but we can sort that out in a sec. That's not a problem. Right, so we'll just get rid of that for now, and we'll come back to that in the next video. So there we go. You don't need to create any more styles. We can put everything that's styling of our body or content, I mean, in this area here. So again, we can have multiple images if we want to. We can even, if we wanted to, actually control the background color of these elements. But again, I'm not going to show you how to do that because it can cause us problems later on, and I'm going to show you a better way of doing it in the next video involving div tags, which is a good way of dividing your page and controlling how the content is laid out. I'm also going to show you how to introduce and create videos and embed them onto your web page. So I hope this video has been of some use to you. Again, this template will be available alongside this, so you can reference back to the actual code itself at any point and literally copy elements out of it and change as you see fit to your work. Right. Thank you very much.